I would say the stage is yours. Have fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny that you said that this was heavily contested because of the title, but basically this question, is AI going to take my job, is a question that I hear everyone asking. Only like the baker in the bakery and then my hairdresser, they're not concerned, but everyone else who sits in front of a computer all day, they're all worried, like, is AI going to take over my job? So basically, for me as a SharePoint and Teams consultant, am I worried that AI is going to take over my job? And that is a question that I want to address in this session, because SharePoint consultants are people too, so we also matter. So it's yeah, it's I think it's a valid question. So, but it's good to hear that there was some discussion around that. Good. So let's go. So my name is Marijn. If you've never heard of me, I'm a SharePoint consultant from Belgium. MCT, MVP, all those things. I'm a freelancer. If you've ever run across me in one of the conferences, if you come across to me in one of the conferences, please say hello. That's always good. And one of the things that I also do is I have a podcast together with Steve Dolby called Microsoft 365 Distilled, where we talk about governance, where we talk about user adoption for Microsoft 365 and AI. And we always end with a whiskey tasting. So we now have over 170 episodes. So that officially makes me an alcoholic, I think. But it's a lot of fun. So if you're a lover of podcasts, of something that is not too technical, that doesn't go into, well, which is not for developers, it's more for power users or people running the show in an organization, then this podcast is definitely for you. All right. So with that, a little agenda. We are going to talk about three things. We're going to talk briefly about my AI journey. We're going to talk about the design language for Copilot. So we're going to talk about FAP, and it's not the slur FAP, it's the FAB. And then we're going to talk about AI in SharePoint, which was formerly known as the SharePoint Knowledge Agent. So we're going to see what it can do. And let's do some live demos. I've got some backups in case of the demos. They don't always want to play along, so I've got some backups as well. But let's take a look at what they can do. So that's mainly the thing that I want to discuss today. So if we talk about my job as a SharePoint consultant, what are the things that I can do, that I do on a daily basis? So the biggest thing that I do these days is I'm building intranets. So I'm translating content into beautiful pages. I'm creating a site structure. I'm creating a navigation. I'm making a lot of content, basically, or I take the content from the customer and translate that into a page where we have sections and web parts and all these things. That's one hand. On the other hand, I, of course, also do things around content management. So document management, collaboration, all the beautiful things that we can do in SharePoint with libraries, with lists, with metadata, with views, with rules, with quick steps, with workflows, all these things, classification of documents, basically library functionality. Those are things that I do as well. And then I make sure that the security is set up right. And what I always try to do is I try to teach people along the way so that they can do it themselves, so that they don't need to pay me, so that I can help other people instead of always be at the same organization. So those are the things that I do. And basically, the question is, can SharePoint or can AI do my job, take over my job to do basically these things? So make it easy for people to create content, to do document management, to drive collaboration, to set everything up in a good way so that everything works. That's that's what we're trying to figure out. Yeah. All right. So is AI gonna take my job? And I really love this meme from South Park. I don't know if you've seen it, where people from the future are gonna took our jobs. Super funny. Anyway, it's my level of humor. So if you can't take this level of humor, then maybe you should switch to another session, because this is going to be the whole level throughout the session. So I'm going to show you a few examples of my experience with AI. And I have to tell you, my experience is not very good. Yeah. So a few months ago, not that long ago, I was creating a different presentation where I was talking about the 1-3-5 method, where you need to do 1 big task, 3 middle tasks, and then 5 small tasks. So I said, okay, create for me an image that shows me 3 hands, 1 hand with 1 finger up, 1 hand with 3 fingers up, and 1 hand with 5 fingers up. And this is what it created for me. I mean, this is just a few months ago. This is not like 2 years ago. Like, the number of fingers has always been wrong, and it's still wrong. I mean, yeah. The next example is I was talking to someone, and they were going to talk about with their doctor about heart failure for people with dementia, and they wanted to know what would be good questions to ask the doctor about that topic. So I said, you know what, let's ask AI. And I have to say, I'm sorry, because this example is in Dutch. But I thought it was such a good example that I just print screened it. So I asked AI, can you give me 10 questions that I can ask the doctor? So AI said, sure, let's come up with 10 examples. So the first thing could be, what would be the subtle signals of heart failure? The second question is, how can you do, how as a caretaker, can you react if you suspect this? The third one is how to do preventive measures. The fourth one is how to communicate effectively with other people. And that's it. So I asked for 10 and he gave me 4. So once more, I was let down. Yeah. Then I was also, because this was trying out Copilot, then I was also trying to see if any other AI tools would help me. So I went to Grok and I asked Grok, what are 3 things that I need to look out for if I'm delivering a training tomorrow? I'm not going to read out what it says because then I will probably be kicked off this session. But let's say it's quite unhinged and it's quite rude in what it gives me back. So basically, I wasn't very worried because every time I tried to do something with AI, it's not really amazing until I saw this thing appear. Yeah. So this is our AI in SharePoint. So back then when it appeared, so that was in October 2025, so half a year ago, that was called the Knowledge Agent. And the Knowledge Agent has this button that appears. So what is the Knowledge Agent? Back then it was called Knowledge Agent, now it's called AI in SharePoint. It's basically the brother or the sister of the facilitator and the researcher and the analyst and the project manager and all the other AIs that we have in Microsoft 365, because it is managing all the knowledge that you're keeping in SharePoint. Now, they came back with this naming. They said, okay, project manager is not a good name, so let's call it AI in SharePoint. Okay, fine, good enough. Throughout the whole presentation, you will see the word knowledge manager, knowledge agent written down. It's revamped to AI in SharePoint, but basically it's the same thing. So it's one of those big agents that you can use. It introduces a bunch of new capabilities for things that you can do with pages, with lists, with libraries, but also on a site level. Today, it's still in public preview, so that means it's available. You just need to turn it on. I've got a slide at the end about how to turn it on. Basically, you just need to do one line of PowerShell saying turn it on, and then it's available. Yeah. And the beauty of it is that it is included in your Copilot license. So you don't need to do extra costs. You don't need to buy extra things. If you have a Copilot license and it's enabled for you in the organization, you will just see that button appear on all the SharePoint sites where it is enabled. So brilliant. Yeah. So you've got all the extra capabilities with just the price of your Copilot. Now, that new design language that I was talking about, so it's this button. It used to be a SharePoint button. So in some of the other slides, you will see that button as a SharePoint button, and it's called the FAB. It's the floating action button, and it's something that Microsoft came up with. You will see it on the bottom right of every page when you are clicking around in SharePoint. And if you click on that button, it will open up and it will give you a little menu with extra things that you can do. And it's also contextual. So if you are on a page or if you are in a library, it will give you different things that you can do. We also see this in Viva Engage, and we also have this in SharePoint. It's probably going to roll out to a bunch of other platforms or applications in Microsoft 365 later on as well. So in Viva Engage, for example, you will have that Copilot logo that you see here on the top, on the bottom right. In SharePoint, it now looks like this. So I took this this morning from a screenshot from one of my sites, so that this is how it looks today. But you will see in some of the screenshots later on that it still looks like a SharePoint logo. All right. So why do we need this knowledge agent, this AI in SharePoint functionality? Well, basically, we are talking to AI, and all our knowledge, all the things that we do, all our documents, they're all in SharePoint. So when we are talking to AI needs to get all that data from SharePoint, and that's our most crucial asset that we're working with. There was a number, something about 80% of all the questions asked to AI within a Copilot organizational setting all reference to something in SharePoint, because that's where all our content is, that's where all our knowledge is. So we need to make that knowledge, we need to make that content Copilot ready, because most of the time it's not. Yeah. So that's what we need to do, and that's where the knowledge agent will help us to make our content be more understandable for AI. That's what it's going to do. Yeah? So the AI in SharePoint, or the knowledge agent, will not only help us understand our data better, but also will help Copilot to get the right data and to understand more about what we do with our documents and what our documents are, what our content is. That's the beauty. So this is something that will probably not be a surprise if you've been dealing with Microsoft 365 or if you've been dealing with AI. A lot of organizations are not sure if their data is really Copilot ready or AI ready, because people can't find information, or information is hard to find. It's very time consuming to keep all that information up to date, and there's no governance, or not enough governance. I mean, these three things, these three barriers, these three problems are problems I've been hearing for the last 10 years. oh, we've got everything on SharePoint, but people can't find anything. We don't have any governance, and it's so time consuming to keep all our procedures and whatnot up to date. It's a problem. Yeah. So a lot of organizations are saying that, and this time they're also saying this because of AI. Okay. So if you want to be AI ready, then you need to move from content chaos to be Copilot ready, so that Copilot can grab the right results from your SharePoint in order to do cool things with. Yeah. So this is where our agent, our AI in SharePoint enters the stage. What can it do? So we have this little button on the bottom right of our screen. What can it do? Well, basically, it's going to do three things. It's going to make sure that our AI responses are better. It's going to make sure our business processes run better. And it's going to make sure that our content is up to date. Yeah. How is it going to do that? Okay, so let's look at the improve AI responses. So there are a number of things that we can do, and I'm going to demonstrate this in just a second. I can ask it to, I can point it to a library, and I can say, you know what, improve my library. And it will look at all the files in that library, and then it's going to come up with its own metadata fields. Super cool functionality. So it's going to give AI, because AI, your Copilot, can also read the metadata in a library. So it's going to give your AI the metadata to make sure that it only looks at the right documents. Super powerful. Yeah. So that is one of the things that it's going to do. It's also going to make your business processes better, because it's going to simplify the automation. Yeah? So you can ask it to set up rules, for example. So if somebody adds a new invoice and the amount is over 10,000 euros, send me an email. Yeah, things that we normally do in a workflow or in a rule or in a quick step. Just without knowing anything about SharePoint, I can just say, you know what, it would be really cool if I would get an email when this happens. And the system will set up the necessary technical things in the background, so that I don't need to know anything about SharePoint anymore. I can just ask the system to set that up, and it can do that. I can also ask questions about all the content that is in my library. So basically the default agent capability that I have. So if I'm in a specific library, I can ask it questions, and it will only look at the documents in that library for the content for your answer. And the third thing that it's going to do is it will I can ask it to improve a site, and then it's going to look at files that haven't been touched for months. It's going to look at certain links that no longer work. It's going to look at things that people are searching for, but that are not addressed in any of the content pages that you have. So it's going to say, you know what, people are really looking for how to invoice a customer. Maybe you should create some content around that. Also very cool functionality. It's also going to help us with page creation. If I want to create a new page and I have this blank page and I don't know how to start, it can help me create pretty cool looking pages by just click of a button. So very cool functionality as well. All right. How can we use this AI in SharePoint? So basically, as I said, we have that FAB, the floating action button on the bottom right of our page. We can click that and it will give us this extra menu, and basically it's context aware, so it knows where it is, and then it will give us different options wherever we are. So we will always have the ask a question bit, so we can always start a chat. Contextually, we will see where we are, what it can do, and if we have any agents on the side, we see those appear there as well. So by now I have bored you with way too many slides and way too many information. I'm sure that you're all very eager to see how it works in real life. All right, so let's jump out of this and let's go to my SharePoint. So this is my crisis management SharePoint site. You also see the new SharePoint look and feel with the rounded edges here on the top. And here on the bottom.
One quick question here. We have one in the Q&A section that maybe is good for the demo, or maybe you can answer right away. Can it, I expect it referring to the agent or to AI, can it make changes such as moving files between folders in the actual SharePoint folder and file structure? If yes, what judgment or discernment I should be mindful?
Can it
so basically
move documents around in a library? Not right now. I could see this come at some point, but today it's not gonna mess around with your folder structure. You could create rules that would say, for example, if my customer is in Germany, then put this document automatically in the Germany folder. And if this document is from Italy, move it automatically to the Italy folder. That would be something that you could set up while talking to the AI. And then it could move those documents in the right folders, but it's not gonna grab documents from somewhere and then move them around. I feel like that should still be a manual thing that a human should do, I think. But really good question. I love that question.
Sorry, yep.
Yeah. So this is a communication site, a crisis management, and basically we haven't looked at this site for quite a while. So if I open up my FAP, my button, here are my questions that I can ask it. So I can ask a question about this site, about this page. That's something that you already know from the default agent and the Copilot button in the Copilot chat. I can summarize this page, which is also something that you can do from the Copilot chat button. So that's not very cool. But what I can do is I can ask it to improve my site. I want to make this site better. How can, just give me some ideas. And basically it's going to give me, today it's going to give me 3 ideas. It's going to look at broken links, which are links that are linking to something that no longer work, that give you a 404. That will be listed here. Content gaps. So as I said before, if I see that a lot of people are searching for something very specific and I don't have any content for that, that's gonna appear there. And then it's gonna say, you know what, maybe you should write some content about this because this is what people are looking for. I think that is very valuable as a intranet maintainer or as a SharePoint site maintainer. I think that is a very valuable insight to have without looking at the search result analytics or something. I can just ask AI to give me back that information. And I also want to look at some pages that haven't been touched in quite some time. And basically it's going to say, you know what, I've got 5 of these. I've got 5 pages that basically haven't been touched in a while. And here on the more options, I can actually change that time that it's looking for. So by default, it's 6 months, but I can also move that to 3 months or longer, if depending on how much change is happening in a specific site. So here I've got 5 pages that haven't been touched in 6 months time. So I can then review them and I can see, oh, you know what? I've got a, let's say, a precautionary measures page that was last viewed in 2020. So that this is a really old site that hasn't been touched for ages. You know what? Let's take a look at that page. Yeah, that really looks like a very old page, something to do with coronavirus. Maybe that's not something that we need here as being very up to date. So what I can do is I can select that and I can retire this page. I can also do a lot of some other things. I can basically delete the page if I don't need it anymore, or snooze this suggestion, but I can also retire this page. Now, retiring this page is gonna do some things. I love this. So basically, let's refresh and let's try that again. So let's go into review. Let's go in here and let's retire this. Please check that this is published. This should be a published page. Let's try another one. I love it when demos don't work. Let's see. Let's try another one. So the test anchors page, for example. Now I see that this hasn't been published, so that's not a good one. Let's try this one. This is a page around trainings. So you know what, let's try to retire this one, and it also says it can't do that. Okay, so basically we're gonna mark this as a fail. What it will do, it will add a banner here on the top, and this banner will say this page has been retired, hasn't been updated. And the second thing that it will do is it will also remove it from the search results. How it's doing that in the backend? In the backend, it's going to create in the site pages library, and I can just show you that library. That site pages library, it's going to create an extra column called is retired, and that's going to be put on yes or on no. It's not something that you can create yourself, because if you create it yourself, it doesn't work. You have to let AI create it and then create that column, and then you can still populate it yourself. You can just say yes or no to whatever pages that you want. And that works pretty well. So it will give it a banner saying this page is retired, and it will also remove it from the search result. So pretty cool functionality if it works. So just let me try one more time, because this is this should be the easy demo to just try to lean into the whole demo thing. So let's see if we can do this. No, it won't do it. Okay, that's fine. Then let's this demo has failed. Let's say that's okay. So second demo is what if I'm here? So right now I'm here in a team site, and within this team site I have a document library, documents. Earlier today I just dropped some documents in there, and now I can also go into my floating action button, and now it has some extra fields that I can use. So or extra functionality that I can add. So here it will say, do you want to create some autofill columns? Because the autofill is one of the coolest functionalities that we have. So this is a functionality that's actually coming from Syntax from years ago. There was this thing where you have to pay extra for SharePoint, and that was called Syntax. And what you could have were autofill columns. So what is an autofill column? So you see here next to the name of this column, it gives you this little 2 stars icon, and the 2 stars is really in SharePoint the meaning that this is something AI. So always when you have those star icons, that means something AI that you can do with it. So this is a description column, and if I go into edit mode, this is a basic single line of text field, and with the Copilot, I can actually turn on autofill, and I can actually say, this is a specific prompt that I want you to do for each of these documents. So I want you to extract the main description of the policy from this document, ensuring it is summarized in one sentence and capitalized. Property, if the description is not found, return not found. So that is what it's going to do. And I can test that to my first document. I can just make a test, and then I can see what it's going to do. And it's going to give me a result back. So this is a policy that allows employees to bring their pets to the workplace. Yes, that's my bring your pet to the workplace policy that I want to have. So what is actually happening here? Because this is a pretty cool functionality, but what is happening in a functional way behind the scenes? So metadata has been a pillar of SharePoint for the last 20 years. Yeah. So instead of creating folders where you only have one way to look at your information, we can create metadata columns. And with every metadata column, we can sort, we can filter, we can group our information or our documents in any way we want. We have infinite ways of looking at our information. There's only one problem. Nobody wants to fill out metadata. Everybody hates filling out metadata because it's always so much work. So what is the best way of filling out metadata? Not having to fill it out. Have AI fill out your metadata. That's the best way how you can do metadata. So that's what this is. This is a way where I can add a document in a library. AI is going to pick up that document and it's going to automatically fill out my my metadata values. So I'm just going to save this. For some reason, it didn't want to process. I think AI doesn't want to play along today. But what it's also going to do, it's going to create some other columns that you could show if you want to about the processing status, the processing details, if it's processed, and if it has been corrected. So this will give you some more insight in what is happening with your description or with your specific autofill field that you want to create. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Now, one of the cool functionalities that we have today as well is when we try to create a new list. I can do this from here, and I basically have an AI way of asking the system what kind of list I want. But with Cowork, I also have this functionality now on my libraries. So if I want to create a new library, normally you would see this. You would say, okay, blank library or some templates. Now I have this functionality as well, where I can have some examples. For example, I can also let it like show me more examples of what I want. So I have a little prompt that I wrote down. So I want to create a library for my tender documents. I want columns that are about my client name, the amount, start date, end date. I want a view that shows me the active tenders, a view that shows me the tenders that we won, and also send me an email when someone creates a new tender. That's basically what I want this thing to do. So I can just say, okay, go ahead. We'll think a little bit. It will think, it will think, it will think. And at some
question
point it will,
while
yes.
it's running, is the
Yeah.
autofill option only available for a single line of text, or can there be also choice columns?
No, that is a very, very good question. It's available for a number of columns, not for all of them. I think for managed metadata and people and calculated columns, it's not available, but for choice fields, long text, short text, yeah, that's definitely available. Numbers as well. Yeah, I'll give a little demo of that later as well. So basically, this is what it's gonna do, and I can say create my library, and that should be pretty fast. And it's basically gonna create a new library with that specific name, with a specific description to it, which is good because I always forget to fill out the description. So it's good that AI takes care of that. There we go, and it's good. And now I can open that up. And I've asked it for client name, amount, start date, end date. It didn't do any of that yet. It's working. So now it says, well, your library is ready. I set it up as standards. Now I'll create some autofill columns. And it's going to grab the library schema, the recent files. But that's fine. It's a new library, so there are no files. So it basically can't do anything. So it says library is empty. It only has default columns. So maybe I should suggest some columns based on the original requirements that you gave me. So it's going to reason over what I gave it, and then it's going to think and it's going to come up with a solution. Now, let us just let that thing just think, and we'll just go. There we go. Normally it takes a little longer. So basically, I asked it for client name, amount, start date, end date. But I also said, show me the active tenders. So it's gonna add a status field in there as well. It's gonna give me a submission date. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna say, you know what, keep all of these. Brilliant. All of that is done. And then when I'm finished reviewing, I can help. It can help me to set up the active tenders view and the won tenders view. And brilliant, yes. Set up the active tenders view and the won tenders view, and then it's gonna do that. So I don't need to know anything about SharePoint. I don't need to know about different kind of fields, how to create fields. I'm just talking to AI in my own language, because now I'm talking in English. I could talk in Dutch or in German or whatever, and it will just understand whatever I'm trying to say, and it will do this for me without me having to know anything about SharePoint. So, well, that's going on. Brilliant. Let me just go into my last demo where I want to keep invoice. So I've got a library, and in this library I have, I want to add a few of my old invoices. And basically this is, most of the time with organizations, this is where I come in, where an organization says, we've got tons of content, nobody can find anything anymore. Please come and help us. Yeah. So I will go and I will see a specific library, and I will have to talk to people or figure out or open documents to see, okay, what is this about, and what would be good metadata in order that we can structure this library so that we can improve findability. Let's go back to our floating action button, our fab button, and here I can say, you know what, just create columns for me. And what it's going to do is it's going to, and this is a little user interface hiccup. I can click on these ones, but they don't work because it still has to do a number of other things. So what it's going to do is going to look at the content that I have in this library, and then it's gonna propose a number of fields based on the content of my library. Now, in this case, these are invoices. These are invoices that I've sent back in the day, 2015, a long time ago. So it's gonna look at those documents. It's gonna recognize that they're invoices, and then it's gonna come up with useful metadata that would be useful when we talk about invoices. So, come on. It's also very funny, like half a year ago when this came out, this was super fast. I could do this demo in under a minute. It was so bleeding fast. These days, it takes quite some time. Now, because it takes quite some time, I've already done this in a backup site. So where I just did the same thing, I added a few documents and it said, you know what, I found a few columns that might be useful, like an invoice number, an invoice date, and the name of the vendor. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's cool. But you know what would also be cool is if we also would get the VAT number. So I can ask, add a column that has the VAT, and in these are Belgium invoices. So in Belgium we call that BTW instead of VAT. That has the BTW amount to it, so that I know how much that I need to give to the government. So just add that, and then it will think a little bit, and it will say, you know what, okay, it's cool. I'll come up with that as well. Needs to think very hard, needs to think very deep. It's going to analyze everything, and there we go. We got our VAT amount here as well, and it's going to give me one not found, and these are also VAT amounts. I'm going to keep all of these because now this is some kind of free screen where I can work with AI to come up with the thing. So now I said, okay, keep all that. Now it's going to save all those columns. It's going to create all those columns in my invoices library. It's going to set up that autofill capability. And now if I go back into my invoice library. So basically here it's created a VAT amount. And if we go in here, this is a number field where we also have that autofill capability set up. This is going to be the text field. This is going to be a date. So this will also be an autofill enabled field where it's going to give me the invoice date. For some reason, it doesn't seem to find it, but I've got my invoice number as well. And basically, every time I add more documents in here, when I drag more documents in, after a few seconds, minutes, it's just gonna automatically start running again, and it's gonna grab those documents, it's gonna look at all those things, and it's gonna automatically fill out all that metadata as well. So you will see that appear here pretty soon. Now, because of the time, I'm just gonna go back into my slides, and we'll come back here if we have, well, there we go. It already did it. So these two that I just added, they also got auto-filled with their metadata. So I think that is the coolest functionality from the whole AI in SharePoint. That's the autofill capability where it just automatically fills out all the metadata of all my documents. Brilliant. Now,
We have one question for the
yes.
autofill. How is the autofill going to decide what the status column is, given that it's not mentioned in the document itself?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Let's see. Status. So we can always change whatever the system comes up with. And this one says autofill, determine the current status, return active one, lost, pending, closed. If not found, return pending. This is the prompt that it's going to use. Now, if we decide that this is not going to work because this is probably something that a user needs to do for now, unless we have co-work, look at my emails and say, oh, we want this, so now I'm going to look at this list and I'm going to switch it over. Maybe it's a better idea that we just not have this as an autofill column and just have choices here, for example, that we can manually click on. But yeah, definitely a good call. Also, one of the things that I was looking at earlier is when I ask it for a VAT amount, how will I know if this is going to be the right number from the whole document? So this is definitely something that you need to test out, because one of the things that I also had in other demos was where I said, give me the VAT account number. And half of the time it gave me my own account number back, because my own account number is also on that page. So you need to be very careful with your prompts when you want to use a prompt in the autofill, but also to test your prompt and to make sure that it doesn't contain any errors. Like, for example, with the VAT account number, you could say in your prompt, if this is the account number, my own account number, don't use that one. So those are things that you need to learn while you're doing this, and always double check the results that you get. Super important. Yeah, but also really good question. I love that.
So looking at the time,
Yes.
yeah, so there are like maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes
Yeah,
left.
exactly. So I am going to, so basically all the things that I was talking about, they're here as well in the slides. These slides are coming from Microsoft. They're beautifully made. They're half a year old as well, so they might not be totally up to date anymore. But I will share these on LinkedIn, so you can grab these and do whatever you want with them. All right, so let me just go to the end of the slide deck. There we go. So how can we set this up? So let's say you looked at my demo and you were like, ooh, this is what we need. How can I do this? Well, it's super easy. You just need to make sure, well, you need to set it up with PowerShell. So basically what you need to do is you need to download the last version of the SharePoint Online Management Shell. Then you open up your PowerShell and you connect with your tenant. And then you can just say set SPO tenant dash knowledge agent scope. And then you can say either just enable it for all the sites, or you could give it to some sites to try it out. Yeah. Now, this button, this floating action button, will only be available for people that have a Copilot license. Listen to me very carefully. If a person with a Copilot license has this button, goes into a library and says, okay, now create my autofill columns, those autofill columns will work for anyone that goes into that library. Yeah. But be aware, Microsoft is tracking this and they have a fair use policy. So they will say, okay, if you have some people with a Copilot license using it, some people without a Copilot also using those Copilot things, that's fine. But if you just have one Copilot user and you have 3,000 non-Copilot users that are all using those autofill columns, then Microsoft's probably gonna give you a little tap on your back and say, maybe not. So don't spoil it for the rest of us. So basically, install it. People with a Copilot license will see the button. They can do all the extra functionality. And even people without a Copilot license will also get the benefit of those autofill columns. So that is pretty cool. Now, also, what is not working, or what is not working yet? A few things. So if your library has folders, for example, if it's the backend of a Teams team, the agent can't go into folders yet. Yeah. So what you can do is you can create a view without folders. You need to go into the old way of creating a view in SharePoint, but there you can actually grab or create a view that will show you all the folders, and then you can run your knowledge agent, your AI in SharePoint on those things. It can also not work with any uncommon file types. So for example, CAD drawings or any weird things that you have, it can't look at those things for metadata. So for example, movie files, sound files, it can't really work with the metadata there. Also, the columns that it's creating will be list and library columns, so they will not be side columns. So if you want to use it with your PMP search, for example, that's not going to happen because it's only going to be a list or a library column. It also can't create content types yet. If you've been working with SharePoint on-prem back in the day with SharePoint 2010, 2013, 2016, you know that when you create a new column and the column has multiple words, then it's gonna put like an 00x20 underscore in between the name, in between the words of the name. Yeah. So back in the day, we used to create it as all in one word, and then we needed to edit the column to make it to put some spaces in to make it viewable as a nice looking thing. This thing is just doing the same thing. So if I ask for the start date, it's going to create start underscore 00x20 underscore date. Horrible. This shouldn't happen. Microsoft knows about this. We've been very vocal about it. So yeah, it's not doing, all the work behind the scenes is not 100% quality up to par, let's say. So to round up, am I worried? Should I become a baker? Should I learn new skills? Should I become a hairdresser? Maybe I should. I've seen some very, very, very cool things. I've like the demos that I've seen, the autofill columns, the creation of the columns, creation of pages, creation of the library and the list. I've seen some demos a few weeks ago at MVP Summit about these are the things that Microsoft are cooking internally that's gonna come out in the next weeks, months. I've seen very, very, very cool things. So I don't think my role as a SharePoint consultant will be gone in the next year, but maybe in 5 years' time, it might be time to learn new skills, I think, next to SharePoint. So yeah. So if you want to know more about the knowledge agent or the AI in SharePoint, these are some links that you can find. Also, if you just search for knowledge agent or AI in SharePoint, you will find a number of learn pages with really good explainer text, with really good videos. There were a ton of blogs and videos about this. So definitely very easy to find more information. And with that, I thank you very much. And if there are some questions, if we still have time for some questions, I'm happy to do so.
First of all, thank you very much for this really, really cool session. It covered everything that I have imagined and more. So leave some love here, please, for this fantastic session. I know it's always a little bit hard and unpleasant to speak in front of a completely silent audio without video and only looking at my bored face that needs to stay here for 10 hours straight. So I see Marston is already there. That is great. So I'm gonna get him in here as well. And maybe you can have a look on the chat. I think there are like 2 or 3 questions. I think it's easiest if you can answer them directly in the chat. That would be best to keep track. One question we have in the Q&A, and I think the answer for that is really quick. Can an agent in SharePoint work on a role-based way? For example, if someone from HR opens the agent, he gets other questions from the agent than someone working in IT. So I think you will probably agree with me since I have read the question, and I think that is not possible in terms of that the agent detects like things that are attached to the user. You would need to design the agent in a way that he maybe asks in the first step. If you know you have people from different departments coming from, you could implement like a skill or just in the system from the agent saying, look, first of all, tell me which kind of department or what kind of role do you have so I can tailor my answers to that. So that would be possible, but it's not like an out-of-the-box feature like detect.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would be possible if you create your own agent, but not the AI in SharePoint one.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much for this presentation. I hope it was fun for you. Feel free to look to have a look on the open questions.